Praise the Lord, this is Pastor Larry. I want to talk to you today about finances. No, I'm not going to ask you for an offering, nor am I going to preach at you about paying your tithes. None of that. I want to talk to you about why we're all struggling financially, why everything's going up in price. And I think you really know the answer, but I want to get into the history of it and the details of it. When our republic was founded, it was written in the Constitution that all legal tender, that means all legal money, was to be backed by gold and silver. And all of our coinage was either to be gold or silver. And that was that way up until 1965 and 1971. 1965, Congress, controlled by the Democrats at the time, passed what they called the 1965 Coinage Act. Prior to 1965, all of our coinage had 90% silver in it. 90% silver. And I'm not going to get into all the history of it, but this is a 1923 silver dollar. It's a Liberty Eagle, okay? And it has 90% silver in it, all right? So all of our coinage had 90% silver in it, pocket change. And 1971, Nixon took us off the gold standard. In other words, our dollars were backed by gold. You could take paper currency and take it to the bank and exchange it for gold. And same thing with silver when our money was on the silver standard as well. But when they passed the Coinage Act in 1965, all the silver was taken out of our coinage. And in 1971, our paper currency was no longer pegged to the gold. So it became a free-floating fiat currency. So this is what's caused inflation. In the beginning, it was slow because this money was still in circulation. But, Gresham's law took place, which means all the bad money drove out all the good money. They took everybody started collecting this money and pulling it out of circulation. So there's a website called Coinflation. And if you go to that website and you look up this coin, you'll find that this coin is valued at $34. $34. So I want you to think about that for a minute. This $1 silver coin issued by our government is now worth $34. So if they had never taken the silver out of our coinage, you'd be making $34 an hour if you got paid $1 an hour in today's money. All right, in today's money. And inflation wouldn't be running away. You would be able to afford a new house. You would be able to afford a new car. You'd be able to afford health care because your money would have value because it would be silver or gold. Silver right now is $44 an ounce and gold's at $3,700 an ounce. When Nixon took us off the gold standard, I think gold was at $34, pegged at $34 an ounce. And what's causing all this inflation is government spending money we do not have. Now, I don't know if them, paying down the deficit would solve the problem or not. I'm not a money expert, okay? But I do know this, that where we're headed is for an economic collapse because they keep kicking the can down the road, all right? I don't know if they could reverse the inflation by paying down our debt. All I know is that on the road that we're on, we're headed for a collapse. And what's going to come when the collapse comes is what they've been talking about in the news, not in the mainstream news, but in the other offline news, is UBI, Universal Basic Income. You might have heard of that. So when your fiat currency can no longer, when you can no longer make enough money by working, the government's going to have to give you welfare. universal basic income. They won't call it welfare. They just call it UBI. And after they get everybody on a UBI, because your fiat currency has no longer has any value, it's just one step away from the mark of the beast. And then once you're on the mark of the beast, you can't be saved. That's what the Bible tells us. Once you take that mark of the beast, which is to buy and sell, you can't be saved. All right? So I want you to think about these politicians, how they've robbed you of your purchasing power, along with the bankers. The bankers are the ones that, back the politicians. So anyhow, that's why you're feeling so much anger, frustration, because your money's not worth anything anymore. All right? And the only way you're going to not be able to take the mark of the beast is if you have gold and silver to barter with. All right? So, Pastor Larry, this is, this is not the best news in the world, but, you need to know these things are going to happen. All right? So, next time you go to the polls and you vote for that politician, remember what kind of man or woman they are. Are they honest people or are they dishonest people? Are they going to reduce the deficit? Are they going to save our financial system, or are they just going to continue to destroy it? All right? These are things you need to ask yourself. It's Pastor Larry. Thank you for your time. God bless you. I wish you well. Bye-bye.